Everybody, and welcome to Planet FPL, the world where everything that revolves around Fantasy Premier League. My name's Suj.
My name is James.
They're trying their best to make sure that our world doesn't revolve around Fantasy Premier League, James. They are those that be are trying to hijack the news with anything other than FPL.
I can see it now. 5 years from now. Welcome to Fantasy Franchise League, hosted by Suj and James.
Nah, that ain't never gonna happen and ting.
I think it is.
we're gonna do what we do, which is a rundown on FPL. But yes, there have been some breaking stories in the last 24 hours that have been huge in so many ways, but also a bit meh. I'm going to forewarn everybody that I think James and I might have slightly differing opinions on this European Super League news that broke yesterday. Obviously today, Spurs trying to change the narrative as they do by sacking Mourinho and just giving her a little bit of distraction. I'll be honest with you, I don't think it's worked at all. I think everyone's just like, oh well, it was going to happen eventually. Today happens to be the way. Anyway, back to the European Super League. And so on and so on. And we're halfway kind of through, just under halfway through an FPL game week as well.
This might be the last Planet FPL podcast. We are going to go over the games a bit. I'm going to do a little bit on strategy for 35 and 36 for FPL managers. But it's from an FPL perspective. We're going to do this first, basically purely because if we don't do it first, we ain't going to do it at all. So we're going to do a little bit of FPL and then we're going to get into let's be honest, the real stuff.
So starting with FPL, where are you up to so far? To be honest with you, I'm coming off the back of I'm coming off the back of a weekend away in Centre Parks with the family. And for UK listeners, you might know what it is, but it's like in the forest, middle of nowhere. Wi-Fi is rubbish. Mobile phone signal is rubbish. And it was quite the weekend to be away without phone signal. And as much as I say phone signal, the rest of it is rubbish, James. Actually, I managed to watch the West Ham Newcastle game without any issues. So I used it as an excuse to avoid all the other football because I couldn't if I really wanted to. And to be honest, yesterday was actually a really satisfying day to be disconnected from everything that was going on with football. So my FPL week, to be fair, though, has been okay. I'm sitting on 39 points. I'd say okay. Still some blanks in there. Holding and Shaw, Fernandez, and Son. So blanks there. My only points have come from Jesse Lingard and Captain Harry Kane, who everybody owns anyway. So it's a bit of a meh. So I'm sitting on 39 points, but I've obviously got Mendy, Diaz, Trent, Jota, Iheanacho, Kane and Son still to go. So a lot could change in the next few days.
Yeah, if we assume that Harry Kane won't play on Wednesday, and I'm fairly certain that he won't, even if he's probably fit, I don't think he'll play on Wednesday now, then I've got 9 to go, subject to Fraser Forster coming off the bench for Bernd Leno. Similar to yourself, Kane captain, Lingard return. I'm on 34, I guess with in theory 9 players to go.
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to go. So yeah, half of the course. I've got all the
including your Spurs doublers.
No, including Son, but not Kane. Yeah.
Oh, okay. You only got one other Spurs there. Yeah, I got Reguilon as well. Exactly. You never know. Tottenham might learn how to defend now, but we'll get onto that later.
In 3 days. Let's get onto it now. Let's look at
the game. Okay. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah.
Friday night, mate. Everton 2, Spurs 2. I only followed it on app score updates, and Kane scores straight away. You're like, all right, that's good. At least my captain's returned in a week where it could have been particularly tricky. And then Everton equalised 3 minutes later, and I didn't even need to watch the game to know what was going on. I'll be honest with you, I didn't even need to watch the game to know what was going on.
Rinse, repeat, isn't it? So, I mean, there's little point going into Mourinho tactically in this game much because it holds no relevance to what may or may not happen next. Obviously, we went to a back three, which those who listen to me regularly will know the man is absolutely incapable of coaching a team in a back three. I've never seen it done so badly. The one strength to Tottenham's squad is that we have good attacking players. So Mourinho decides to go with just Kane and Son with literally no support. Kane scored 2 magnificent goals from his perspective. The finishes are out of this world. I mean, the first one, obviously both goals come from Everton mistakes, but the first one, when he takes the first touch of his left and is dropping back down, I'd tell you, any other normal human being just waits for it to come down. But he goes, no, so what? It's my left peg. Bang. And you know he's going to score. And he buries it in the corner. And when the second one dropped as well, I'm sure everybody went, goal. And he just finishes it so well. He could have easily won the game with a header that hit the post as well. He was levels above everybody else on the pitch. He's an absolute superstar. In terms of injury-wise, because obviously the majority of the game is going to own him, and those who only captained him, his returns were no good to you anyway because of the effective ownership of the triple.
Yeah, topped 200%.
Incredible. In terms of his injury status, I don't have an update to give you. I can tell you that if he is 60% fit, he'll play against Manchester City in the cup final on Sunday. When he last did the ankle against Liverpool, he returned 10 days later against West Brom. So the distance between the Everton game and the cup final is 9 days. So if it's the same as that, he'll play in the final. I would be staggered if he played on Wednesday. Unless there is literally nothing wrong with him. But
I mean, sometimes you do get those injuries and people just come back, but there's no news, so we don't know, right? We just got to sit down, hold
nothing
fire,
yet. There's other things going on which are distracting people at the moment. Everton was shit as well. I saw some comments saying it was one of Everton's best home performances this season from some people, which is quite scary.
That says a lot, isn't it? They've been horrible.
I'm pretty sure I've probably watched every Everton home game this season, and this felt like a lot like the others. Quality-wise, missing Calvert-Lewin and stuff. Rodriguez, when he's on the ball, it's lovely and stuff. But they're doing nothing really for the rest of this season. There might be some interest for them because they're likely to have a double game week in game week 35, which we'll talk about in a bit. But until the news yesterday, I assumed Tottenham and Everton were going to be in a fight with each other for the UEFA Europa Conference League next year, but I'm not even sure if that's the case anymore. There's no real interest in anything happening with Everton. They're just meandering to nothing. Their home form's costing them a real challenge at the top four. They've won 5 home games. Shocking.
Yeah, I don't think obviously they're in contention for top 4 now. Europe, still they've got a chance, but not top 4.
Is anyone qualifying for Europe next year? Do we actually know?
That's a good point.
I mean,
we'll soon find out.
By default, Everton, I guess, might be in the Champions League next year.
Probably.
I don't know.
Still obviously a game to go for Spurs. Everton done for the game week. And the Saturday game started off with Newcastle 3, West Ham 2.
I want to tell you that I've been racking my brains. Well, not for 48 hours, but probably for a good sort of 30 hours or so after the game, trying to think of the achievement unlock that you managed in the game, which is managing to go 1-0 down, score an own goal in the process of doing that, and have a player sent off in the same attack. I'm not sure I've actually seen that happen before. I can't think of it.
Must have been someone, own goal maybe. I mean, players have definitely got sent off in an attack where the opposition have scored. I don't know about the own goal at the same time.
My understanding of the rules, and I don't know if the rules been altered. Let's be honest, a lot of us don't know what's going on with football rules these days. My understanding was that if a player was to be sent off from the field, it had to be done immediately. However,
if it's a second yellow.
Yeah, but you're still getting sent off from the field. So my understanding was the game has to be stopped immediately. Now, if it's because it's second yellow, I don't know if that's different. However, what I would say is Kevin Friend, who refereed the game, obviously got the 2 big decisions right. 1, that's how we'd want to see it refereed. Yes, please let the attack continue. And 2, he obviously got the call right on the handball for West Ham's penalty as well.
Again, so a lot of people
credit the referee.
Don't think that there's 50-50 opinion on that handball.
It's all day long. It's a penalty, mate. All day long.
His arm was in his arm. That's a penalty. I would agree.
His arm's above the opponent's head and goes like, I can't really explain this on an audio, but
I get it.
It's above his head. It's handball. It's penalty.
It was just a stupid. It just coming out of it just was a stupid game because the 15 minutes or so before we conceded, I mean, the most of the game, if not all of it, we dominated the ball so much better. We played the better football, passing the ball around, keeping the ball, creating chances. But it was clear, and we knew going into the game, Newcastle are going to sit in deep. We've got to break them down. We're not going to get space in behind. So what we're good at in runners in behind, there was no space. And none of our midfield players are good enough to unpick the lock in Noble and Suchek. They can't play the threaded through ball. The amount of times Noble tried it and lost it was rubbish. And say Maximan and Almiron on the break, I thought, and even Joe Linton on the break, they did really well. I thought they gave us a few problems. But I always feel with those three, I'm like, just let them cock it up themselves, because eventually they will. Like, don't try and force an error or tackle them. Just let them cock it up, because inevitably they'll piss up the final ball or take a shot that goes blazing wide or whatever. Whenever they're attacking, I always feel like just stand off and let them cock it up themselves, which they regularly do. And then that dumb own goal, red card.
Classic, mate.
And then Fabi, who makes two mistakes a year, or in a bad year, makes a mistake. You're 2-0 down. And from then on in, survived till half time, which we did, fine. And the second half, you wouldn't say that we were playing with 10 men. No. We were high energy, high work rate. Soufal on the right put a massive shift in. And it's just naive to get to 2-2 and then concede again straight away from a set piece that we should, well, not a set piece, but a cross that we should be defending. And you could argue the case, had Dawson been on the pitch, maybe he'd be heading that ball away. So it just felt like a bad day at the office, where the calamity started with the own goal and then just couldn't turn it around. But I can't fault the players for effort at all. We can't fault them for trying in the second half and upping the tempo and creating chances. And had it been a draw, that's all Newcastle would have deserved, because if you're down to 10 men, you don't sit in deep like that.
No, they defaulted to what they know, which I'm not even say you'd blame that on the coaching at Newcastle. Actually, I think it's a default mechanism for players to go into what their comfort zone is, and their comfort zone when they're winning games is to sit behind the ball. I think if they'd have kept playing the way they did on the first, it would never have got to that stage where it got back to 2-2. They allowed you back into it, as much as I give you credit for what you did.
I mean, it's hard to break down a team sitting in deep with 10 men like that for large periods of the game.
Newcastle damaged you in the central areas where I was really concerned for you that Leicester would, but then obviously couldn't because they didn't play Maddison or Perez in that area. And obviously when you've got direct runners like St. Maximin or Almiron coming off the back of Noble, I mean, he's got no chance, in fairness, right?
It was too easy for him to spin, turn and go, and then you're in trouble, right? Although just run him into a dark alley and he'll just muck it up himself 4 times out of 5.
It was one too many players missing, on top of obviously Rice, crucial in that area in a game like this. Antonio obviously up front through the middle, and obviously lost Dawson mid-game. Cresswell, Masaraku. What was the story with Masaraku?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything.
Didn't read anything. But I think you really missed Cresswell. One of the things we obviously lean into speaking about it as a fantasy prospect when we speak about Aaron Cresswell, but he's a good distributor of the ball, both short and long. And you obviously had, I think in the first half, you had about 65% possession or something. And just looking at the guys playing from the back, it all felt a bit, Johnson's a right-footed player playing left wing back. It's not particularly comfortable for him. The 3 other centre-backs, I'm looking at them going, who's going to actually step out here? And I mean, Dawson tried to step out and it fucked your game in one moment, basically. So I think you really missed Cresswell in terms of even the direct balls into the front guys as well. Once you got it into Bowen and Lingard in high areas, that they looked like they could cause damage, right? But one too many injuries, and I think you're not comfortable at the moment in games like that. And we've seen this in some other games. Although your record against bottom half teams this season generally is outstanding, there's a little bit of discomfort when your back players are allowed to come out with the ball. It's not quite right, and I think for that reason particularly, you missed Cresswell. Have you had any more update on his injury status?
No, but it was just a tweak. So maybe another. It was thought to be 3 to 4 at the time that he did it. So I reckon it'll be after the Chelsea game for sure. It won't be before the Chelsea game.
Chelsea.
He'll be back before the end of the season.
Mason Mount is one of the best players in the league at picking up the pockets behind midfield players. Dangerous at the weekend, mate. I think if you were to go into that game on Saturday with a similar team, and if Mason Mount plays, I probably expect them to turn you over, to be honest. I just think they'd cause too much trouble. But even if you got beat on Saturday, it's not like the end. You've got great final 5 fixtures and you're still within a shout. I think it's probably bitterly disappointing that obviously after the Leicester win, you go from hope to real belief. And then we spoke in the build-up on our Tottenham Patreon podcast about like expectation now. It's Newcastle away. You have to go there and
But then if that own goal hadn't gone in, I think we would have won the game because we were growing into it,
Probably
controlling the
maybe.
ball, and so yeah. I mean,
but you didn't create anything 11v11, did you? Be honest.
No,
a lot of the ball, you weren't
but
creating anything.
It took. Do you know what I felt like? I was like, this is what it must be like to be a City fan when teams sit in deep. You've got to have patience.
Yeah,
we're not playing like City, but I'm like, you just got to keep the ball and keep doing what you're doing, and eventually you'll get the opportunity to unpick it.
People, listen, you're doing really well in the league. People are going to begin to take you seriously, right? Games just by that alone become more difficult in terms of the style you have to play with. People will treat you with more respect. And what they don't want to do at the moment, clearly looking at West Ham's goals over the last month or so, don't let the likes of Lingard run at you and stuff.
Yeah.
Tighten the pitch, it's obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, credit to Newcastle, to be fair. They put a strategy in place.
Lingard, I think, it was just cramp, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah.
It was my instinct.
It was just cramp at the end.
Just a final note on Newcastle. We lost 1 in 7. And they're 8 points clear of Fulham now, having played a game less. Their fixtures,
and obviously Fulham only drew, so I think
their next 4 fixtures are fucking dire. So I still wouldn't say they're safe. Probably 1 win is all they need. They've still got Sheffield United at home to play in game week 37. So if that's what it comes to, I imagine they'll fancy their chances. And I think
Callum Wilson's obviously came off the bench, looked reasonably lively, to be fair, at the end.
They had a period with a lot of draws, like the West Brom game and stuff like that. I think if Wilson and St. Maximin had been fit through that period, honestly, I think they'd already be safe.
Wolves won, Sheffield United 0. We talked about Sheffield United just now. They're down.
Well, I don't know that.
They've been down for a while.
I don't know that yet, Suj. Tomo tweeted last night, didn't he? Our Sheffield United correspondent, he said, I cracked open a beer. We might be back in the league.
The team's getting kicked out. We'll see.
Do you know what? Sheffield United didn't play badly. Their inability to create scoring chances is a massive problem. They're not one you look at. Fulham have had some games and you think, you can't put the ball in the net. But actually, when you think about Sheffield United losing games narrowly, I can't think of many occasions where you look back and think, oh, they should have won that. They missed chances there. And the one real chance they created in this game that was clear was obviously Ender Stevens should have scored, hits it straight at Semedo, and 20 seconds later in the same attack, they're 1-0 down. Because Kean Bryan makes one of the biggest mistakes you'll see in a Premier League game this season and leaves Adama Traore free. Well, as you are, he's a very basic and average player, Bryan. And that's why they've gone, because they've got a lot of average players. We know, not helped by the defensive injuries, etc. They didn't play particularly badly on Saturday. I think if you imagine what this game was, if you didn't watch it, and a lot of people would have made that choice, you didn't miss a lot. Wolves are doing nothing at the moment. William Jose scored. He actually moved towards the front post. Similar, in fairness, to the disallowed goal against Fulham the week before. I would not be chasing Wolves' FPL points, personally. I would look at it from a defensive standpoint. You go, oh, they've got 2 clean sheets in a row, 3 good fixtures to come. Yeah, but the 2 best ones have gone. So it was going at the start, really, for me. I guess if someone wanted to look at them offensively, they're probably looking at Traore, 3 attacking returns in 3 games. Please don't go there. Please. I honestly, I would buy Jared Bowen playing against Chelsea this weekend and buy Traore. Just would not be for me.
Too inconsistent. And at this time of the season, I feel like you need 15 potential players rather than having someone that could easily be benched or not play because he's not fit. So yeah, Traore is not for me either.
They look like by default, with obviously Neto out for we think 6 to 8 months now. I think that means because of the lack of attacking options, they probably are going to stick with a back 3, and it is kind of chalk and cheese for them. Back 3, back 4. They're so much better defensively in the 3. But I said before this run started, I think on average Wolves will probably get a goal a game, and my opinion on that hasn't changed. They beat Fulham 1-0 and they beat Sheffield United 1-0. Big whoop.
Arsenal couldn't beat Fulham 1-0, leading on to that. Fulham won, Arsenal won, Fulham won, but Fulham 1-0 up, and again, they've dropped points. I don't know the stats on Fulham's drop points from winning positions, but I bet it's rubbish.
You've got Mendy in goal, haven't you? Who's your sub keeper?
It's Forster.
Oh, so you got Forster as well. So I've got Leno. I think there was a lot of us Leno owners on, because Tuchel said on Saturday night, didn't he, that Kepa's going to play again against Brighton tomorrow. I think there was a lot of us Leno owners going, that's why I didn't go with Mendy. I knew that could happen. And then Leno got left out as well, which was random. Apparently Matt Ryan's been training like a beast. slightly concerning. The Arsenal team was quite strange because of that. There was obviously heavy rotation. I thought Gabriel might come in to give Mari a break. I think Holding, as I said, is probably quite safe at centre-back until David Luiz is back fit. Cedric Onos must be going, what the fuck? Didn't play in Europe, hasn't played the 2 league games. Looked like potentially a great pick after Kieran Tierney got injured. But Jacques has been playing the games at left back. No sign of him. Alexander Lacazette obviously did his hamstring during the game yesterday, which looked like a proper hamstring job. So his season could well be over. So you definitely need to be looking at selling him. I think Arsenal are probably in the zone where if you've already invested something like Holding or Leno, for example, you're sitting there and you are, excuse the pun, holding. Leno, I would imagine, will come back in for the Everton game this week. But they are, for me, because of the Europa League involvement, they are in a complete space of no, don't buy, don't sell. And that's it. And just forget about them otherwise. And probably after game week 35 for the run-in, you can consider binning. But if you get that far, you probably won't. Then I'll probably stay for me, and I'll just have to suffer it for whatever it is. Fulham, Scott Parker obviously had his head in his hands after they conceded the late goal to Wolves. This was on him, honestly. They finished this game in basically a 6-3-1 formation, and the one being Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Honestly, Mourinho, before dismissal, would have been sitting there wanking at home watching how defensive this was. It was so over the top. And the problem is, if you go that deep, they accepted they were going to win 1-0 or concede. And I get that to a certain extent. And they've done it before in other games. They've won at Liverpool, for example. They've won at Everton. They've won some big away games this season. But if you're going to go that defensive, you got to kick the ball out of your penalty box. If you're going to put up a proper block of, say, a back 6, which is basically what they got. But Arsenal kept getting the ball into the box. You think eventually something's going to fall.
There's going to be a chance.
And that's exactly what happened. I didn't have a problem with the goal being awarded, by the way. For me, I don't think Holding was in an offside position. It was not affecting anything that Areola did, in my opinion. No. Yeah. So I actually couldn't believe that they were even looking at it, to be honest. I didn't have an issue with the goal being scored. Arsenal season looks like it's going to peter out into nothing.
Fulham, they've got the Europa League.
No, I mean their league season in terms of are they bothered what they're doing even? It's an amazing fixture run, but good luck guessing the team. I mean, presumably, if Aubameyang's recovered from malaria. Presumably he'll come back into the team up front on Friday, or they will play Nketiah. But I know there'll be people looking, should I get Nketiah? I wouldn't even know what price he is, 4 point something, I think. But I mean, he could be in the team this week, out the team next week, and so on. It could be that Arteta goes, well, I'll play Aubameyang left and Nketiah up front in Europa. I don't know what he's going to do. I don't think most Arsenal fans are quite sure what's going to happen at the moment. I think, by the way, in the Europa League semi-final, they need to get Xhaka back in midfield, in my opinion. I know a lot of people think he's quite a laughable footballer. I actually think he's been decent for Arsenal, probably since the Burnley red card. I think he's been all right for them this season. I think they need to get him back in midfield with Partey. No interest. Fulham, I've got 5 games to go. Need to win 3 of them, probably. And they've got 3 very winnable fixtures in there, but they've also got Chelsea away and Manchester United away. Doesn't look good.
No. And the last game was Manchester United 3, Burnley 1 yesterday evening. I mean, Manchester United just keep rolling on and keep winning games, and their front 4 are decent.
They were far from at their best yesterday, United. I think Burnley can feel a little bit aggrieved that they didn't get something from the game, actually. But it is becoming a more impressive trait for United that they are actually now winning these games, because these fixtures have been a real problem for them. Particularly, I can imagine a lot of United fans probably saw the Burnley team and went, oh, shite, that's not as open as I thought it was going to be. Because obviously brought Jack Cork in for Mattia Vidra, went to a 4-5-1. And I think that was to compensate the problems I keep saying about once you break beyond the midfield, the distances between midfield and defence are too big. And with a player like Bruno, you can't afford to allow him that space. So what it meant was the 2 wide midfielder of the central 3 could go and press. And it meant the protecting one still had another shield of a second player tucking round as well. And it was just a bit tighter for it. I thought Chris Wood played really well up front. A little bit greedy in his final shot. But I think part of that was because he's used to having a partner with him and didn't. And there were plenty of times he thought, well, I might as well have a go here and stuff. And interestingly, he might be an interesting prospect for the rest of the season. I don't know if that system will stick or not. I imagine they've got yourselves in a couple of weeks. that 4-5-1, even if it doesn't play against Wolves, might come back for that. Same thing. Let West Ham have a lot of the ball defensively and draw them on. I think it was really harsh from Vidra to be left out. I think
I was glad I left him second sub.
Well, is he going to be a problem for you this weekend because of obviously Tottenham and City blanking?
I've only got 3 in 2 Spurs, 1 City. So I've only got Son, Kane, and Diaz.
But that's what I'm saying. So if you don't sell any of them, you're obviously hoping Vidra starts at Wolves.
I'll probably sell one of them.
Okay.
Son.
And then what?
Likely as I'll sell Son.
And leave Vidra as first sub.
Yeah.
This was always the problem with going for Vidra, I think. And I'm not saying it was a bad choice for anybody. Trust me, I nearly did it myself. But I think the problem was always going to be, if he comes out the team, where do you go now? If you haven't got the money in the bank, you're taking -4 just to get rid of him, aren't you? Obviously, I think it would be worth going up to Iheanacho if you can, if you haven't got that. But he's already really popular at the moment, and that's going to continue with Leicester's fixture swing really starting now.
Yeah, I mean 16.7% ownership, James.
Yeah, but it's a lot bigger than that at the live and in the top 10k and stuff. I think the majority of people wildcarded in 31 will have got Iheanacho. So his ownership's higher than it technically looks. And that will go up again this week. Obviously scored in the semi-final against Southampton yesterday. On United, there's a lot of talk about Bruno at the moment. And I kind of repeat what we've been saying is, when am I going to captain him? That's why I found him expendable a couple of weeks ago. However, I see a lot of people talking about perhaps buying Greenwood instead of Bruno this week. If they want to get rid of Son and you've got the money spare, do you come down to a Greenwood or do you go up for a Bruno? Personally, unless you're really chasing, I would stick with Bruno if that's your plan. I'd just look at it with Greenwood and think, well, Cavani said yesterday, he actually asked to be sub. He said, I don't feel I'm ready to start again. So Cavani can easily come back into that team. I think Cavani gets into the majority of United fans' favoured team. Rashford, we know, is carrying an injury. So does it mean that the Greenwood sits out again? They've still got Daniel James around, who presumably is probably going to play more in the Premier League for the remainder of the season than Europa League. And Fernandes, we know, with the midweek off as well, he's going to play against Leeds next week. So I'd still prefer to go with Fernandes. And I think that's an issue for anyone looking. So say you're a Lacazette owner, you're probably looking and going, Cavani, that works. But I'm Cavani and Greenwood don't particularly appeal for me at the moment, actually. I look at it and go, Leeds, we've spoken about them perhaps being a bit more pragmatic. Yeah. Then they've got Liverpool. The Liverpool game's sandwiched in between the 2 Europa League semi-finals. Then a really sharp turnaround. So what they're going to end up having to do, United, is after Leeds, they're going to play Thursday Europa League, presumably Liverpool on the Sunday, Thursday Europa League, Villa in the league on the Sunday, then Leicester on the Wednesday. So they're going to have real quick turnaround. There's got to be rotation in there, particularly when their top 4 positions absolutely secured. You could argue that second is actually secured. I realise they are only 8 points behind Manchester City now. But let's be honest, nobody is really believing that we're suddenly going to be looking at a title challenge here.
City aren't going to lose.
Nobody at United believes that. No, not at all. So I think City will probably put their stamp on the game at Villa Wednesday night and go and get the points they need. Then it's 11 points again. And it's effectively very nearly over from that stage. So I can see even rotation with United. I would still, if I was buying one this week, it'd still be Bruno rather than a Greenwood or Cavani for me.
From the City assets, for sure. I just think if you're selling Bruno, you probably end up going elsewhere. I mean, not this week, clearly, in Kevin De Bruyne, but I like the look of Liverpool's fixtures for the rest of the season. And I think, for me, Son to Salah this week is a move so that I don't have the Spurs issue. And on the week after, I might be looking at getting rid of Bruno for Kevin De Bruyne, bringing him back in again. But not desperate to worry about at the moment. Son to Salah is the easier move, not really Bruno to Salah or getting rid of Bruno, especially not this week with the blanks and so on. So,
before we move on to the hot topic debates, I just want to do a little bit on strategy to make people aware of what's likely to happen. So we believe that the Premier League are likely to move what is currently match week 36 to the weekend of the FA Cup final, and match week 37, which is scheduled for that weekend, will move to the midweek afterwards, and that's to allow all 20 clubs to have fans in for their final home game of the season. What that is
we haven't
likely,
obviously had official confirmation of that, but
official.
There's strong rumours.
Yeah, and I think we will probably get that confirmation this week because the TV fixtures haven't yet been announced for game week 34. That's got to happen this week, and I think we'll get the announcement of what's to follow on afterwards as well. What we can't say with certainty is if it will be double game week 35 and blank game week 36, because if FPL cannot move the dates for whatever reason in their system, it will be blank game week 36 with most likely 8 teams and 4 fixtures. And then we'll have a monster double game week 37. I think that it's far more likely that we'll get double 35 and blank 36. However, I think a lot of us, it would be prudent of us to say we can't guarantee that FPL will be able to move the dates. And currently, that midweek, which is likely to be the second half of 35, is currently scheduled to be the beginning of 36. So if for whatever reason they can't move the dates, then it would create blank 36 and double 37. What we can now be sure of with near 99% certainty is which teams will double in 35 and then obviously will blank in 36. So the first thing to say is I've mentioned to a few people that Southampton, Fulham might get brought forward actually to fill in 33. Southampton's defeat yesterday means that won't happen. So Southampton and Fulham will stay scheduled in the game week 36 calendar.
Yeah.
It means almost certainly that the 2 fixtures that we were unaware of, Villa versus Everton and Southampton versus Palace, will go into that midweek that we assume is going to be available between game weeks 35 and 36. That will give a double for all 4 of those teams. Importantly, those 4 teams will also play in game week 36, which is not the case for the other 4 teams who are likely to double in 35. Because Chelsea and Arsenal and Manchester United against Leicester are now likely to be postponed from game week 36 and brought forward to where they currently are scheduled that midweek, thus giving those 4 teams a double game week in game week 35.
Which is quite attractive because those are 4 teams with decent FPL assets potentially.
It should be. The problem is what the doubles are. So for Arsenal, West Brom at home, Chelsea away. And bear in mind as well, obviously Arsenal have got the Europa League semi-final second leg before the West Brom game. And because Chelsea are in the FA Cup final, that means again, Arsenal's double will have to be on the Sunday and the Wednesday. That also would apply to Manchester United as well, who will have Aston Villa away after Europa League semi-final and then Leicester on the Wednesday. Again, it has to be Sunday, Wednesday because Chelsea-Leicester playing the cup final on the Saturday afterwards. So there's going to be short turnarounds as well.
Which is rotation.
Yeah, you've got it. So Arsenal's double would be West Brom and Chelsea. Chelsea's would be Manchester City and Arsenal. United's would be Villa and Leicester, as said, and Leicester's would be Newcastle, Manchester United. Leicester's is the most appealing purely because it's the end of that great run of 4 fixtures, which begins this week anyway. You just throw in the Manchester United fixture on the end as a little bit of an added bonus. And Leicester might have more spacing between their games. They could, for example, perhaps play Newcastle on the Friday and then Manchester United on the Wednesday. But it's worth remembering this is Leicester's first FA Cup final since 1969. If they do well in the league games prior to Manchester United, you can bet your life they'll probably rotate against United as well. And the same probably applies to Chelsea beforehand if they're in a strong position. Arsenal and United because their Europa League involvement. It's absolute minefield. Even look at the goalkeepers, Mendy and Leno, Henderson and De Gea. Schmeichel will probably play both games. But even with the goalkeepers, I can't guarantee you that someone's going to play twice in the build-up from those 4 clubs. Now, the other 4 teams are interesting because they will cover you for the double and they will still have a fixture in 36 where Arsenal, Chelsea, Leicester and Manchester United are going to blank. So you can't even go mental in getting these doublers anyway when they're going to blank in 36 unless, like usage, you've got a free hit to cover it, which we'll come back to. But for the majority of people, they probably don't have that chip. So manoeuvring is going to be important. And that's why the other 4 clubs are going to be of interest. Villa's double is shite. It's United at home and Everton at home. But they do walk into Crystal Palace in that blank game week in 36. Palace themselves have the best double. It's Sheffield United away and Southampton away, and then Villa at home. For Everton themselves, it's going to be West Ham away and Villa away, and then they walk into Sheffield United at home in 36, interestingly. And for Southampton, it's going to be Liverpool away, Palace at home, and then they have Fulham at home themselves in 36. So for the 4 clubs that are less established, let's say, and probably less fashionable from an FPL perspective at the moment, interestingly, their 4 fixtures in the game week afterwards are quite interesting. And I think if you take that with Palace, the idea that you could have someone like, let's say, Zaha, come in for a double of Sheffield United away and Southampton away, and also give you the coverage for Villa at home. At the moment, he's on nobody's radar, Wilfrid Zaha. And with Leicester and Man City in their next 2 fixtures, I don't think he particularly should be. But come game week 35, a player like Zaha is, honestly, he's going to be on people's lips. And that's worth bearing in mind. Because, like I said, for those who don't have the chip, these players are going to help carry you through. It's just then a decision of, well, would you play Zaha then against Arsenal and Liverpool in the final 2? But for someone like me, unbelievably, that it'd be a differential. There's no doubt about it, as and when it comes around. Do I want to buy a Palace player? No. But I'm telling you before 35, we will be talking about people like Wilfrid Zaha. It's a certainty. What do you think at the moment for yourself, still having that free hit chip, in terms of when you think you're more likely to use it?
I can't answer that, mate. It really, really, really depends on what FPL will do with their game weeks. But all I would say is I'd like to use it aggressively on a double, not defensively on a blank. So I just need to figure out whether it's this 35 with the midweek fixtures that follow, or 37. Like, I don't know which is going to be the big double. One of them will be the bigger double. That's the one I want to target. I don't really want to use it in 35. I'd rather use it in 37, something like that. But mainly because of the rotation involved with the European fixtures.
This is going to be a massive headache. Even on a free hit, you'd do bloody well to pick 11 players going to play twice.
Exactly.
In fact, to say now, that's going to be impossible.
Yeah. I agree with you. So I'm going to wait and see what FPL do with the dates for the game weeks once it's announced before I make a decision. But at the moment, I'm just trying to figure out, I know for a fact I want to use it aggressively on a big double. My ideal would be game week 37 double. That'd be huge, because by then European competitions and a lot of the other stuff is all kind of done.
But then in that case, if it's a blank of 36, you might not have many players. So if you take my case at the moment, let's say 36 becomes a blank, 35 stays as it is, 36 becomes a blank because I can't move the dates just with those 4 fixtures. And then we get a shed load of teams double in 37. And it would be a shed load. You'd now be looking at 16 teams doubling, and 4 teams having a single fixture. Let's say it's only those 8 teams. I would, at the moment in 36, I would have 2 goalkeepers. I'd have Leno and Forster. I've got no coverage from Villa. I've only got Rudiger from Chelsea. I've got no Palace, no Everton. I've got 3 Leicester. I've got no Manchester United. So in terms of outfield players, if that was to become a blank game week in 36, currently I would only have 4 outfield players available for 36. And bearing in mind, 3 of them are Leicester players, and it'd be 3 days for an FA Cup final. I literally could end up with next to nothing. My take on it would be, what am I going to do? Maybe get me up to 6, 7 players and just suffer it. So I think even if I take massive hits that game week, if it's a blank,
leave yourself with a team that doesn't play the week after.
Well, there's part that, so you couldn't go mad on Leicester, Chelsea, Arsenal, Manchester United anyway, which is the ones you'd probably want to. They won't play. Well, they will play the following week. They'll have a single, but would I then be leaving people on the bench because other teams have got a double? I'd still think it's far more likely it'll be double 35 and a blank 36. And for me anyway, if you take me, say, with the 3 Leicester players, it was always a case that I was probably going to move away for their last couple of fixtures anyway. So I'd probably be looking at a -4 to even remove all 3 of those Leicester players going into the blank 36. This is why I was so strongly in my mind about rolling a transfer this week just gone. So now I've got the 2 in hand. I want to wait as late as possible this week, make sure I don't pick up any further injuries. I mean, for example, if Harry Kane's ruled out for 3 weeks, he's going, isn't he? If he's back for the weekend, I want to put the armband on him against Sheffield United the following week, particularly as we might even play attacking football now. So I'm going to leave my decision as late as possible this week. And I ideally only want to be making 1 free transfer and keep rolling with the 2. So then I get to 35, maybe make 2 or 3 for maybe a -4. But to be honest, I'm not sure any of it would be worth it. be so difficult on rotation. So the plan is difficult. I think it's probably opened your eyes to, okay, yeah, someone like Palace, Zaha's, Calvert-Lewin's, Grealish's, if he's back fit, are going to come back onto your radar for 35, I think, possibly, because they have a good fixture in 36 afterwards as well.
Interesting to see how this unfolds in the coming weeks. You just mentioned there about your lot being Spurs playing more attractive football. Why might that happen?
I can't believe that they've sacked him, and I can't even enjoy it. Honestly,
what?
It's unbelievable.
Why have they?
Why have they sacked him?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing to say is, anybody who watched that game Friday night and kept seeing the camera pan back to Daniel Levy would have been left in no doubt that he was not making it to next season. There were strong rumours this morning that went round that Mourinho refused to take the players for training in protest to this Super League stuff. However, the voice who never lies, Fabrizio Romano, has said that did not happen this morning, and quite simply, Mourinho was called into a meeting and was sacked, and it's based purely on results. And I support that decision to sack him, obviously. I think it is a little bit of what you said, trying to break some good news for the fans after the worst fucking news ever. So I think timing-wise, there probably has been a little bit of that. I imagine the club aren't even probably bothered about these rumoured stories that perhaps Mourinho did refuse to take training this morning. Man's a dinosaur, mate. He's so outdated. So, yes, of course, I am, from that perspective, I'm pleased that he's gone. But it's not even, my dad phoned me, he said, I'm so happy. I said, Dad, it's not even on my mind. He said, who do you want next? I said, I don't care. I said, A, I'll take anyone. But B, this Super League nonsense is all that's filling my head at the moment. As I said with Ricky on the pod we released on Friday, it was just a case of when. There was no if
for me as well. When I heard it this morning,
when.
I was not surprised that he'd been let go this morning at all. I was surprised that they'd done it now, because obviously you've got a game in 2 days, you've got a cup final in a week. Like, Ryan Mason's taking first team training. I don't think in the next 7 days it would have made any difference. I think you were better off not causing disruption and letting him do another week and then letting him go, in my opinion. The problem is, if you win the cup final, it'd have been impossible to sack him. It wouldn't have been impossible.
It wouldn't make no difference.
It would have been more difficult.
It wouldn't make no difference. All we do is look at it and go, well, yeah, that's what he was brought in for. Thanks. We'll take that bit of silverware. Now you can fuck off. Like, honestly, it wouldn't have made a damn bit of difference if we fluked our way to a victory on Sunday. If we fluke our way to victory on Sunday, doesn't mean Ryan Mason should get the job, for example. It's irrelevant, mate, honestly. On Friday night, I watched the game as per usual, like I was hardly there. We went in front with a lucky goal, and then, of course, immediately give it away because we've got the best defensive coach in the world who knows to set his teams up defensively. Admittedly, it's a brain-dead moment from Reguilon, don't get me wrong. Reguilon, I think, by the way, for owners like myself, I don't think he would have played on Wednesday if Mourinho was still manager, because you know his attitude. As soon as Everton went 2-1 up, he's been at fault for the first goal, and he was too high up the pitch, in Mourinho's opinion, for the second goal. He took Reguilon straight off the pitch. And you know his blame culture. You're to blame. You don't play the next game, right? So I think Reguilon would have found himself unbelievably out the team. He's not been playing well, don't get me wrong. I think he probably will now play on Wednesday. I don't see why he wouldn't. And so we're chasing the game. He brings Lucas and Lamela on rather than Bale and Dele Alli. And this did not go down well in the Spurs community, right? We're losing. We need goals. We've got two of the best goal scorers. Wherever you think of Bale and Ali, put them in front of goal, they'll finish. Right? Two of the best attacking players in the country in terms of chance conversion. And you bring on Lamela and Lucas. He played Lucas at left wing back.
Maybe he thought that you needed more energy because Lucas and Lucas at left wing back is bizarre, but Lucas and Lamela do bring a lot of energy to the team. Lamela gets about the pitch well, as does Lucas.
Genuinely, I didn't have a problem that you brought Lucas and Lamela on, by the way. But he also still did not bring Bale and Dele Alli on. He brought Dele Alli on for Kane in the 94th minute after he'd done his injury. So Kane levels us again. We get back to 2-2. And you think, well, all the momentum's with us now. We can now do the opposite of what everyone's been doing to us. We've got the momentum. We stopped trying to win the game. We settled for a point in a game that was shit or bust, win or lose. And I think that was the final straw. We did not try and win that game in the last 10 minutes, Suj. There was no attempt. we were happy with a draw away to, with respect, a very ordinary Everton. We're ordinary as well, by the way. But we did not try and win the game. For both teams, that was a shit or bust, win or lose. At least Everton tried to win the game. And I think that was the final moment, pushed it over. Also, what we said a lot in the Tottenham podcast is what I've said to you. Harry Kane can get him sacked. No doubt about it. And I think that's probably what's happened.
I did think that as well.
I think that's what's happened.
With the timing and the way it came out, I reckon after the Friday night game, there's been a bit of word in Daniel Levy's ear from some of the big players, and he's gone. I don't think it changes Harry Kane's situation with Spurs. It depends who comes in as the next manager. I still think there's every chance that he may leave at the end of the season, but there's more chance of you getting top four and winning on the weekend now that Mourinho's not there, for sure. If nothing else, you'll go for it a little bit.
I wouldn't say it does give us a bigger chance on Sunday, to be honest.
It doesn't harm it, though.
Well, no, just because the irony is that the one way to beat Manchester City is obviously to put up a low block, force them into wide areas, stay really narrow. If we go and I'm not stupid. If we go and swing punches against Manchester City on Sunday, even if it's their under 23 team, we'll get murdered. So does it give us a better chance on Sunday? Probably not, ironically. But, I mean, it's the right decision for the football club.
Maybe not on the pitch, but obviously off the pitch, I think it changes everything.
You still
get just the energy that you're going to go into it with, the negativity that comes with having that culture is going to just disappear overnight. Like the players today are going to be breathing a sigh of relief, mate.
Yes, I think so.
And that in itself will help.
In terms of who's managing the football team, yes, I would be amazed if there's many players there that aren't happy that he's gone. I'm trying to think of scenarios of players that would be pleased or disappointed that he's gone. I think, okay, maybe like Joe Rodon, because he's been in the team recently, probably has a certain amount of allegiance to Mourinho because he's got in the team recently. You think through the rest of the team and you think, I struggle to think that there'd be a name there would have been happier for him to stay. So I do think, I mean, there's been a big movement in terms of the fan base over the last 2-3 weeks or so to say like enough. Spurs are been getting battered on social media to get him out. I think even those who have been long-held admirers are like, Jesus, this is awful. You've got two of the best strikers on the planet and you're still playing like this. And that's the problem, isn't it? Kane and Son walk into any team, basically, and you still won't go for the throat again. If we just went and attacked most week, we'd have more points. Just by default. We're shit defensively and you want to bring pressure onto them. No, relieve the pressure by playing football. You make everybody's life easier. He had to go. There's zero doubt about it. In terms of just briefly, because I know, who do you want, James? Ideally, Nagelsmann or Rodgers, but I understand Nagelsmann might well be coming up for the Bayern Munich job. And if that's the case, then he should take the Bayern Munich job. I get that. Rodgers, just to feedback, by the way, I did a little bit of research. He's actually on a monster salary, Brendan Rodgers at Leicester, which I didn't realise. He's on 10 million a year.
That's a lot of money.
And I thought he'd probably be on about half that. So, whether you'd prize him away from Leicester, if that's of interest, I don't know. But look, I got to 125
Allegri.
names. Yeah, I'd take Allegri. Of course I would. He's a very experienced manager, can play multiple tactical systems. I've seen in front of my eyes Massimo Allegri change a Champions League game against Tottenham in the space of a substitution. And they went from 2-1 down to 3-2 up in the space of 5 minutes. So I know he can make in-game tactical tweaks and systems and stuff like that. Very experienced manager. I wouldn't have an issue with that. To be honest, there's not too many who I think, like Nuno Santo's being, and that's probably the one where I'm a bit like, and I really like Nuno, but I think he's had a difficult year at Wolves, and I think it smells of the links with Mendes, all this Portugal stuff, the Doherty sign. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, the majority of Wolves football is fucking negative and bland. So I don't want to go from shit negative football to shit negative football. However, would I rather have Nuno Santo than Jose Mourinho? Yeah, all day long.
Of course.
Because I'd look at it and go, well, we don't know what a Nuno Santo will be able to do with a Harry Kane or a Heung-min Son or stuff like that.
Sure.
But ideally, that team right now needs coaching. It needs a coach that can go in and understand modern football and tactics. And for Jose, who has been one of the greatest managers of our generation, it's passed him by. It's gone. It's over. Jose
out is done. Exciting, interesting. You know what I haven't seen? I haven't seen the YouTube sensation that is Expressions. I can't wait for some of his rhymes about Jose. There's going to be some good ones in there. I can't wait to hear what he has to say.
The majority of the Tottenham fan base, however, right now, don't give a fuck.
Happy?
No.
Okay.
Well, I'm not.
All right, fair play. Let's do it then. You promised everyone a 2-hour podcast. We've done 50 minutes, which isn't too bad. I thought it might be a bit longer. I don't think we're going to go to 2 hours. I just don't think it's that big a deal, this whole European Super League.
Christ, Suj.
Let's talk about this European Super League. And let's start the entire conversation by let me caveat it. I am approaching the situation as a West Ham fan, not really as a football fan.
Okay, well, I mean, I'm not sure what that means because I'm a Tottenham fan first and foremost, but I'm also a football fan.
Because
I'm not sure football exists to me without Tottenham, if that's what you're getting at, which I understand.
No, there's these arguments going around about this European Super League shouldn't be, because one of the issues that people have with it is there's no promotional relegation from the founding clubs and blah, whatever else. We'll get into maybe the details of how it runs or whatever. And everyone's coming back and saying, well, football is about competitiveness and anyone can make it, and it doesn't matter who you are if you're in with a chance, if you over time build your team up and all the rest of it. So football fans and football purists are talking about the competitive nature of the game and how teams can rise up and rise down, and it should be a sport that includes promotion, relegation, etc., etc., etc. I just think that's all nonsense, to be honest with you.
Before we say anything else, can we timestamp this? It's basically 3:15 UK time. Suj and I are generally out the loop of what's happening in the last hour or so, to give you a little bit of context. This story is moving by the minute, basically, at the moment. So we may well say something that proves to be incorrect by the time this pod gets released. But are you trying to say, Suj, that you are therefore for the Super League?
Yeah.
Why?
Good. Let them do it.
Why?
Well, look, okay. The Super League hasn't been fully fleshed out yet, right? It's still early days. All we know is that these 12 clubs are withdrawing from the European Club Association or whatever, and they've said they're going to start this competition as soon as practicable, which could be a couple of seasons.
I didn't even know that was a word till last night.
So it could be a couple of seasons time before they get it up and running, and so on, right? So it's not a replacement for the Premier League. Like, these clubs are not voluntarily leaving the Premier League. They will probably get thrown out potentially, but they're not voluntarily leaving the Premier League. It's a replacement for the Champions League, right?
Okay.
So I think it's quite funny. We had this issue with Project Big Picture, 6 weeks ago, maybe?
A few months ago now, to be fair. So pre-Christmas, I think.
And everyone kind of shut it down a little bit. And then the week that they ratify, or the day before they ratify the changes in the Champions League, which got passed through unanimously, right, in the end. Or at least
it's literally been announced as we're recording now.
Yeah, it was.
I've just had a message to say that the Champions League Swiss model format from 2024 has been confirmed for the Champions League.
It was a couple of, I know, because they popped up on TalkSport as I was driving home, that it was confirmed that they've announced it at exactly the same time. It basically is a big FU to FIFA, UEFA, whoever else it may be, right? So it's replacing the Champions League, or what they want to do is replace the Champions League. Well, I'm not in the Champions League anyway. We've never been close to getting into the Champions League. I'm not bothered what you guys want to do with your football.
Oh, so where are you in the league at the moment, mate?
4th.
Okay. So how do you feel if next season that let's say the English clubs, the big six, let's say that they're pushing through and they manage to get a revamped Champions League that guarantees them a position, and you finish 4th and you don't get in? How do you feel?
Okay, well, I think that football, in terms of getting into the Champions League and European spots, is fixed anyway.
Why is it fixed?
It's fixed anyway. Okay, I started looking at the league table, and I only got as far back as 2009-10 because I couldn't be bothered to look any further. How many times, the current top 6, how many times have other teams made it into the top 6 in the last 20, 15, 12 years, whatever it was? happened like 5 times or something, man.
I don't even. In the top 6, yeah.
Aston Villa did it a couple of times. Good for them because they then went down to Championship for a little while afterwards, right? Newcastle did it. Everton did it once, and then more recently, Leicester have done it. But really, it's hardly happened in the last 12, 13 years. Other than that, it's always been the current top 6 in the top 6, right? FA Cup. I got bored again going back, but 32 years is how far I went back. How many times has the FA Cup been won by a non-top 6 club in the last 32 years?
There's not many. It's Portsmouth 2008,
Portsmouth,
Everton 95.
Wigan. Other than that, the top 6 have won it. I look back at the UEFA, the League Cup. Yeah, how many times has the League Cup in the last 20 years been won by non-top 6 club? The 6 clubs.
Man City have won it for about 15 years in a row.
Exactly. You got Birmingham, Swansea, and one other situation or something. Right?
So hardly. If I can jump in.
So the point being that the dream we're being sold here is anyone can do it. Well, yes. I'm sorry, for the last 15 years, that's bullshit because anyone can't do it because only 5 times so you're talking 6 European spots in 12 years. That's 72 league positions. 5 times a club has managed to break the monopoly. The FA Cup, 3 times in 30 years it's been broken, right? Leicester did it once. For the rest of us, and over the years, it's gotten harder and harder and harder because the balance of money has been going to the bigger clubs. So the likes of you paying 40 plus million for Lo Celso and 46 million for Sanchez and so on and so on. Chelsea doing what they did last summer. We can't compete with that, right? We can't compete with it financially. Maybe over 20 years we can. But what you're saying to me is I've got to spend the next 15, 20 years of my life waiting for my club to build up. But the money's continuously getting redistributed unfairly. So it's going to get worse. It's not going to get any better. It's already so far down the road of being a closed shop. I don't give a shit. If all the rich clubs, the 6 of you in the Premier League, and I probably come across a little bit aggressive towards the 6 clubs. I don't want to sound like that. But if you want to take your ball and go home, fucking take it and go home.
I get that.
We can't compete with you guys anyway. All it's doing is making the league at the moment, there's 3 leagues within one league. There's you lot, then there's the Evertons, Southamptons, West Ham and Leicester. They're kind of on the cusp, Leicester, I would say. And then you've got the bottom clubs anyway. You've got 3 leagues within one league anyway. Like 6th for us is the best we could hope for as an average over a long period of time. So if the European Super League happens, then, and the clubs are allowed to stay in the Premier League, then that's a bit of a piss take because you've gone after the big money, which the European Super League is, and then you're going to use all of that billions, we're not talking millions, to buy more players in a domestic league. It's going to create more inequality. So if you want to go and make more money in your own little Super League and play on your own pitch over there, go, I don't mind. I'll happily watch it from a distance, but you can't have your cake and eat it, which means get involved in the domestic competition anyway. The talk about the solidarity payments, which we can talk about a bit, I'm not reading anything into that. I don't believe any of that bullshit, to be honest with you. But I see that. And do you know what? For UEFA and FIFA and the FA and the Premier League, I don't give a shit about any of these guys because FIFA's been proven to be a stupidly corrupt organization with Sepp Blatter and everything that happened with that. UEFA's no better. The FA, guardians of football in this country, and this goes for all of the local football associations for the different countries, have allowed the clubs in the last 25 years to get bigger because they've profited as well. Similar conversation to we had with the Premier League 30 years ago or whatever, right? That they allowed them to break away and they've allowed them to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And now, oh shit, we've got a problem here where we've let the clubs get too big. It's your own fucking fault for letting it happen. So deal with it. If UEFA really gave a shit about the big clubs and their financial situation, they had a chance to make a statement with Man City and financial fair play, and they didn't. They bottled it. So sod them, to be honest with you, as far as I'm concerned. UEFA and FIFA don't deserve any of our loyalty here. So I'm not backing UEFA and I'm not backing FIFA because they're just corrupt and as greedy and money grabbing as the big 12 clubs that are going for it. So for me, it's like, you know what? Who am I trying to defend here? Who am I trying to defend? I'm not defending UEFA, FIFA, the FA, or the Premier League. And I don't give a shit about the big 6 clubs or the other 6 clubs from Europe that are all going to sign off on this thing anyway. And you want to take it and go and play in your own league. The interesting thing is the money, because they've released the financial figures. And obviously, each of the 12 founder clubs getting a 3.5 billion, was it euros or pounds? I don't know what it was.
A lot of fucking money.
To help with their infrastructure at the beginning. Now, if you're Daniel Levy, for example, sitting
fucking
in the
down
boardroom,
payment.
you're like, shit, mate, I can pay off the stadium in one fell swoop by signing up to this. I don't blame him for wanting to sign up to that. Go for it. My only thing is you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't go and make your shitloads of money and then try and compete with us as well, because all you're doing is the rich getting richer. This argument that anybody can make it, trust me, it's what America have been doing or ever since they were founded. It's how the rich stay rich and the poor stay poorer. This American dream, anybody can make it. Yeah, you can rise from rags to riches. Is how the rich, is the propaganda that the rich sell to keep the poor poor, and it's happening in football. To be honest with you, I just see it as the rich clubs want to take their ball and go and play on a different pitch because they think they're better than us and they can make more money. Good, go, but then leave us to enjoy our game of football anyway. You remember in the school, you got the kids that are really good at football who get upset with the other kids who are not good at football and never pass them a ball. Those kids can fuck off as far as I'm concerned, and we'll play our game. That's the way I see it. And good, let them go. And actually, the upset that it's causing UEFA, FIFA, Premier League, and so on, good. Now you can see the fruits of letting clubs get too powerful and too much money coming into football. And while we sit here and I'm having my rant, James, look at Germany. They can't do shit, can they? Because 51% of the clubs are owned by the fans. Oh, there's a model that might be nice. Oh, why not? Let's give some power back to the fans and power back to the actual people that support the clubs and understand that they're more of a community-based situation. They're not businesses. Germany, I take my hat off, salute you, because they've done it the right way, whereas we've become commercialized and we've made our bed and now we have to lie in it. Let them go. Good.
God, there's a lot to take out of that. Well done. But I want to, everyone was expecting a rant from me. Well done. I want to come back to your point on West Ham, because I think this is really important, right? Sorry, there are 6 teams that have signed up to this. How many of them currently right now are you above in the league?
2, 3. Liverpool, Tottenham and Arsenal.
Liverpool, Tottenham and Arsenal. You're not above Chelsea as well.
Chelsea as well. Sorry, they got the game in hand. Chelsea as well.
You're above 4 of the 6 teams.
Yeah.
Don't tell me you can't fucking compete, mate.
One season doesn't make it something that's sustainable. We won't be able to do it again next season, in theory. Also, we can't, just because we finish in the Champions League, we're not going to be able to attract the same talent that you guys will be able to because of your pedigree and history. My point is, it can happen, but it's taken Spurs 15 years to go from our tier to being an established member of the Big Six. Leicester are going to need years and years before they can become an established member of the Big Six. But I think it's going to become harder, not easier, because the rich clubs are getting richer.
Well, of course. And I'm not
they
just
all piss off.
And by the way, the people at fault of that in the first instance are UEFA, the Premier League, etc. Right? Yeah. So UEFA, we spoke about it. We did a podcast 2 weeks ago on the potential reform of the Champions League, and we kind of unanimously agreed we don't like this because that could have certain teams like AC Milan, Tottenham protected on a coefficient basis what they'd make in. We looked at the money that Ajax made for getting to very nearly the Champions League final was a fucking pittance against Barcelona, who got to the same stage, because that money was already weighted towards Spanish clubs, English clubs. By virtue of the fact that they were a Dutch club, they simply did not get enough of the share of the money compared to the others. Don't get me wrong, they made a shitload of money, but nothing compared to Barcelona did that year, right? But they achieved exactly the same thing. They both went out in the Champions League semi-final. So UEFA have already been trying to protect the English, Spanish, the Italian, perhaps the French, German clubs a little bit anyway. Just simply by association of where they come from, they've been getting more money. And that's been going on for a very long time, going back to the early 90s. And that's why the days of your Steaua Bucharest and your Red Star Belgrade's having a chance of winning the Champions League are long gone, right? So one of the things that they spoke about, and we spoke about 2 weeks ago, was the idea that, we can make the Zagrebs and the Bucharest. I mean, don't tell me something don't happen. Look what Zagreb did to my fucking shit team a couple of weeks ago, right? Yeah. Anything is possible. But the idea that these guys were going to kind of join the elite again in Europe was fanciful, right? Because we know, bottom line, what they want is the Manchester United versus Real Madrid, etc. This is part why this is what's happening, because unfortunately, the majority of keyboard warriors watching football do not want to watch Manchester United play Dynamo Zagreb. But if Dynamo Zagreb had a brilliant team, like say Dynamo Kiev is a really good example of the late 90s team,
back
with
in the day,
Rebrov, Shevchenko, etc. If that great group comes together, like the great Ajax team from a couple of years ago all comes through together, that's the only chance they've got. They have got no chance of competing on the financial footing. And I get what you're saying in terms of the power. You and I spoke about this on Tottenham a couple of weeks ago, about West Ham being the best positioned to challenge the monopoly of the big six over the next couple of years, because infrastructure wise, London, etc., it's all there ready to go. Admittedly, the owners are not going to spend the money, but then the owner of my football club doesn't like spending money either. You've proven on the pitch this year that you compete. Leicester, when they won the league, started saying, Tottenham finished second that year. Actually, no, we didn't. We finished third in the 2-horse race, I remember. But it was only the second time that we qualified for the Champions League. Then we consistently did it for a few years. So we were no one as well. We've gone through it 15, 20 years of building up the profile of the football club, the stadium, the training ground, etc. And if you look through the rich list, we're a West Ham on the rich list. What, 14th, 15th, 20 in Europe, something like that. Yeah, listen, what does your guy on the clip say? We're West Ham, fucking massive, right? 2005, FA Cup final. Don't tell me you can't have those days. I get it. Yes, the big six clubs are going to win the majority of the trophy. No, I know you didn't, because Steven Gerrard scored a fucking worldie from 40 yards. But it was in the palm of your hands, and you had that day. And the biggest thing is you have to understand that winning and losing is part of the game. The thing for me, and I get the scathing attack of the big six clubs. Listen, my football clubs made me ashamed to support them today. That's why Mourinho sacking it.
I'm not attacking the big six in the sense that...
No, I know you're not.
I think they're doing the right thing. If it was offered to West Ham, we should take it.
Understand that 98%, roughly, of the paying football fans of all of the big six clubs, Tottenham, Arsenal, Man United, all of them, do not want this to happen. They feel like I feel, powerless. I want you to understand something. My team has, for the last 10 years or so, been kind of either just inside the Champions League places or just outside. Fair cut?
Yeah. Okay. 6 to 8, something like that. 5th to 8th.
Now, the whole average. If Tottenham go into the Super League as a Spurs fan, and I know there's a lot of people like, how are Tottenham in it? And I get that, right? It's like the Avengers calling up fucking Banana Man, right? Like we don't really fit in there, okay? Yeah. But on a financial footing, that's why Tottenham are there, right? It's all about the finances, the infrastructure, etc. But how is my life going forward as a Tottenham fan if literally nothing matters but coming first? And what I mean by that is, normally, by October in a football season, I can look at a Premier League table and go, we ain't winning that. Sometimes, I mean, like this year, I could do it to you after game week 1. I know people say, you were top in December, James. Listen, I warned you all what would happen, right? But generally speaking, what you're telling me going forward as a Tottenham fan, it does not matter if my team finishes 2nd or 17th in the league. Why am I bothering? What's the fucking point? What's the point in any game? If literally the moment I look at the league table and go, fuck, Man City are 10 points clear. Why am I in existence? The only way I'd be in existence is to stay in the league. It's irrelevant. Yeah. From a fan's perspective, you're killing the game for me, because the game is about winning and losing. And it comes with the heartbreaks and the successes, right? For every Ajax Champions League semi-final, there's the day where Allegri came on and tactically outplayed Pochettino in the last 16 a couple of years back. And I walk out Wembley and I'm gutted because I feel like over the 2 legs, we've been better than Juventus. It's disappointing. It's disappointing. My team once had the dream of competing in the Champions League. Don't tell me you can't get there. My team was miles off, Suj. 15 years ago, my team was miles off. And you're closing the shop If this had happened 10 years ago, Tottenham wouldn't be involved, would they?
Yeah, I mean, the way it plays out, I think, will be very interesting as well, because if they... part of me is not fully make committal on everything because we don't know how it's going to play out. But say, for example, they said to Tottenham, Chelsea, City, United, Liverpool, Arsenal, you can't play in the Premier League anymore. Do you think they'd pull out of the Super League?
No.
So you think the Super League's going to happen and the Premier League can go as far as they're concerned?
I want to tell you the scariest thing of this, in my perspective, is that I think what's happened so far is the beginning. I don't believe, 48 hours ago, we didn't even know this was happening. It moved so fast yesterday and so secretively that it's quite scary. I genuinely think that the Premier League have a massive decision to make. What the Premier League should do is turn around and say to these 6 clubs, you're out. You ain't even going in the EFL. Fuck off.
Yeah, I agree, because...
I would have no problem if you said you're relegated to the National League, North London Derby, and the following week we got to play Barnet. Listen, that's what my club deserves. My club and the 5 other clubs deserve to be thrown out that big. Not even championship relegation. I'm talking about throwing us to the fucking bottom and starting again. And we'll see how many good players want to go and play in the National League while they play in this Super League.
Yeah, and this is the thing, right?
There's a massive problem, Suj. If I can just jump in and say, the massive problem with this, and this is the scary thing, I think the Big 6 want to pull out the Premier League. And I think if they get thrown out, they'll go, we got thrown out. What did you want us to do? I genuinely think that's the next push, is they are going to pull out the Premier League. And this tournament, as it's being lined up, 20 teams with 2 groups of 10 teams, home and away, 18 games, and then a quarterfinals and whatever else, 23 or 25 games if you were to go on and win it. These clubs get thrown out in their national leagues, they're just going to turn around and go, well, we don't need to split that in 2 leagues. We'll just do 1 fucking league. We just make a 20-team league. And then if they want to, they can create their own cup amongst themselves, whatever.
Your club made revenue of 402 million in a year. 402 million last financial results. That includes Champions League from way back when, gate receipts when you were allowed to go into ground, and so on and so on. 3.5 billion. That's like fucking 6-7 years worth of money upfront revenue, and that's not even including costs, mate. Like, it's an obscene amount of money. If West Ham were allowed to be part of this, I'd say take it. I'm approaching this 100%. Do you understand a little bit where I'm coming from? West Ham fan, not a football fan now, because that's ridiculous. 3.5 billion is ridiculous, mate.
And let's be very honest, right? For those who support clubs who think it's all ethically brilliant at the moment, don't get me wrong. Listen, my club's sold out, and I'm sorry that my football club has done that. But for the clubs like who are in and around it, the Evertons, Villas, West Hams, Newcastles, Leeds, don't think for a second if your club hadn't been invited, it wouldn't be putting pen to paper 100%. On this as well.
We would be doing it, mate. That's a stupid amount of money. And I'd say, go on then.
Bayern Munich, do it. You're mentioning Bayern Munich and PSG have been referenced a lot over the last 48 hours. Don't think that they won't join this once they realise they're potentially missing out. No, they will.
Yeah. They'll have to break ties with the German structure and all of that, which is fine. And if you get kicked out of the English Football League, that's what comes as part and parcel of this. But it's a fascinating situation. I just think what will happen with players is something we need to consider as well, because say, for example, the players are not allowed to then play in European international competitions. Anyone that's contracted to a club in the European Super League isn't. The availability of certain players that do give a shit about that kind of thing might become greater. Having said that, I think players, the majority actually won't care. I think there'll be 20 to 30% that will care and will be happy to play for a West Ham, Everton, etc. in the Premier League. But the salaries will go into astronomical levels in this. And you're talking about £500,000-600,000 a week for someone that's earning 150,000, 200,000 a week now, which the clubs could afford to do with this kind of money. Players are going to take the money.
Sefrin's, the UEFA president's obviously come out and said that players who play in this Super League, to be honest, let's just call it franchise leagues. No fucking Super League. It's not super about it. Franchise league. that they will not be allowed to play at European Championships, World Cups, etc. And I think that's strong. Whether that will stand up in a court of arbitration or something, I very much doubt. Can't see it. How can you deny human rights to go and play for your country? I don't get how that's going to work.
It's Gareth Southgate's choice who he picks.
The clubs will be over the moon, by the way.
Yeah, right? Why do they care? They're commodities. The players are assets.
There are a lot of players who, I don't know, let's use South American example of players, right? There are a lot of people who care far more about their nation than their clubs. Let's be very honest about it.
Yeah.
You go and leave Argentina, you go and play in Spain, whatever, right? And you get an affinity with a club. But generally speaking, the pride is probably for a lot of these people still playing for Argentina. Kids will grow up differently. They will want to play for Manchester United more than they want to play for England, for example. Unfortunately, that's a reality that we are coming towards. These clubs, in terms of this conversation is endless. These clubs want to kill international football completely. They want to kill it. The clubs would be like that. If that's what you want, fine. Kill it off. We don't. The clubs are looking and go, we don't want our players to go and play international football anyway. Pay the wages, you take them away for 2 weeks every 3 months or so. They come back injured and stuff. The clubs don't want them to go and play international football. So the clubs will be like, okay, cool. And then it's up to a player's choice, isn't it? And I think eventually you'll get to the point, if it goes through, that everyone will choose, the majority of people will choose the money. Like it or not, will choose the money.
Yep. I don't doubt that. And that's why I think it's a case of we made our bed, now we've got to lie in it. Because that's what's happened. The way I see it, like if you guys move away into this European Super League, it's no different to us being in the Championship, for example, and there being a Premier League and a Championship. We're just in a league lower. The standard's not as good, but it's still competitive in and amongst
But you
itself,
can't get promoted to the big fucking league, mate.
I don't care. Go and play your game and do what you want to do. But don't then interfere in ours in that sense.
You have
I'll still watch Spurs against AC Milan.
You have to have the ambition, mate. Listen, if you were playing Super Mario Brothers and there were 10 levels and you completed the 9th, you'd want to complete the fucking 10th. You wouldn't just leave the game there, mate. There has to be somewhere to go. Completing the games, winning the Champions League effectively, right? Or winning the Premier League. You've got, every club deserves that dream. And for all the examples you're saying, oh yeah, it can't compete, yada, yada, yada. Ask a Portsmouth fan if you take away his day in 2008 or the Wigan fan in 2013, right? They would not have these days taken away from them. That's their dream. We can't lose that idea of the dream. And I know what you're saying. If all the big 6 clubs go, brilliant. Everton, West Ham, Newcastle, Villa, Leeds, and someone else, they'll become the new big 6. Can I just say, if the big 6 leave, and I completely get the sentiment at the moment, yeah, fuck them off, just get rid. I get that. It's extremely damaging for the finances of many Premier League clubs right now. You take a scenario like Burnley, and we've had discussions about their takeover, etc., and why they're here. I'm probably using Burnley as an investment vehicle, right? What do you think is going to happen for the contracts that have been paid for Premier League TV rights, etc., if the big 6 ain't in it? In a justifiable world, we'll go, oh, great, well, we'll just bring 6 clubs up from the Championship. The value of the competition without those 6 clubs is extremely devalued. Like it or not, people don't want to pay for the same product if a Manchester United or a Liverpool are not in it. The Premier League clubs are going to be fucked.
We'll adjust.
And it goes down.
Don't get me wrong, it will take time because, and there'll have to be solidarity payments, or in the same way that we had furlough for COVID in this country or something. The FA or something will have to happen to try and ease that burden. There's no doubt about it. But eventually it will stabilize. Eventually there'll be a new norm, which will be transfer fees that are 5 and 10 million instead of 15 and 20, and salaries that are 50 grand a week instead of 100 grand a week, and so on and so on. Over a 5-year period, I reckon the finances within the game will stabilize at a new lower level, which is why, do you know the thing I'm most scared of is that you guys will all leave, and then 4 or 5 years later, it might not be working out, and everyone will be allowed straight back in. And that will piss me off, because then you've had your cake and can eat it. And that's, I think, is unfair. If you're going to join the European Super League, you're out. And the clubs need to do that. And if they do, right, let's see what happens. It's not ideal that we can't get into that European Super League, but we're at the peak of the league that we're in. That'll do as a start.
No, everybody deserves the right to have the dream. And then, to be honest, putting my Tottenham hat on, what about me? Honestly, What does football become for me?
I feel for the fans. I mean, yeah. If I put my football hat on rather than my West Ham hat, just think it's.
Make no mistake. I would absolutely rather that my club said no to this and won a Premier League trophy without the other members of the Big Six than went to fuck off and play in this competition for no reason other than sheer greed and finish 10th or 12th in it every fucking year. Because that's the reality for the rest of my football life. That's it. Nothing. Even if we do stay as a Premier League club, so what? Literally, unless we win the Premier League, nothing else matters.
Yeah, and obviously everyone's seen Gary Neville's video, and it's very heartfelt, and I feel it, and I just think it sounds me a little bit that the clubs are willing to give up so much for this, like give up your domestic competitions, give up the ability for your players to play in international football, give up all your voting rights, and even the goodwill of the fans. They are willing to give up so much for this.
The clubs don't care about the paying fan. Yeah, and it's all well and good.
That surprises me, James. I'll be honest with you. I thought they would at least kind of give a shit about the trail of destruction they're leaving in their wake with some of these decisions.
It's like, I know people say to me, so James, you're still going to go and watch Spurs. It's all I know is to go and support that football club. It's what I do. I go and follow it around the country and across Europe. It's what I normally do. I don't know about following it across Europe in the future, but you get my point, right? That's why I've been lucky enough to get a ticket for this Sunday. It's because all I know is to go and support that football club. It's not that easy to just, on principle, people say on principle, you have to give it up. Listen, I'll give it up. Someone else will fucking go instead. Don't think for a second that Tottenham in London with a 62,000 seat stadium, if it's £100 a ticket for one of these games, they will fill it. Don't be naive enough to think that they won't.
Correct.
That's the reality.
Yeah.
Fill it with tourists.
Yeah.
They don't care. We don't matter.
Which is
that's the sickening bit.
Yeah,
no consultation, no nothing.
Horrible.
Literally just went from yesterday to me tweeting in the afternoon going, this shit better be fucking bullshit, to get into tomorrow night and going, how can I put my head on a pillow? My football club's basically dead to me today.
Yeah.
But I can't give it up.
I understand that. I get where you're coming from, because when the original Project Big Picture came out, it was very hypothetical and very kind of blue sky thinking and what have you. And when this came out, and then today the club's actually resigning from the ECA, was like, oh, because when I first heard it, I was like, oh, another, white paper idea about.
I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't worry too much about the clubs relying from the ECA. By the way, that's fucking nothing.
But it's official. It makes it official, right? They're trying to make it. That the point being, from when it was announced to then seeing a lot of this stuff and the clubs making the statements, was like, oh, this is not them just getting together and banding about a few ideas. They are well down the road, and they haven't spoken to anybody. It's come out of nowhere on the day. The Champions League's revamped anyway. It makes me wonder how much of the Champions League revenues and monies UEFA are keeping. Because if these guys can break away and feel like they can pocket this much money, and also they've talked about redistribution of 10 billion over the time or whatever, that's a hell of a lot more than you're getting from that. You got 100 million for the Champions League final. This is 35 times as much money for not even getting into the final, just being part of it. UEFA must be pocketing a ton of cash. Where is all this money?
No one's painting UEFA or FIFA or the Premier League or FA or Sky or BT Sport or anyone who's been associated with the way money's filtered into football over the last 30 years. I'm not protecting any of them, okay? What the clubs here have taken a gamble, right? In essence, the value of all the money that goes into, let's remove the Premier League for a moment, the Champions League is all on the English clubs generally and Barcelona and Real Madrid. And the Italian clubs are obviously desperate to get a piece of the pie. I mean, AC Milan have been trying to hoard themselves out for fucking years to anybody that will take them and give them a guaranteed spot. And ironically, have actually done better this season as of Inter Milan. Juventus are the same. They want that guarantee, right? And Serie A clubs traditionally, we get that, right? That's where it's at. The clubs realise that if they put themselves together and bracket themselves, they as a commodity are worth more than every other fucking club in Europe. is the reality, right? So it's the same. We filter down in terms of the TV rights for the Premier League, etc. Listen, if the Champions League final in 2025 is Southampton against Udinese, I wish those two clubs very good luck, but they ain't going to be making a lot of money. No one's going to be paying for it. It basically just becomes what Europa League now is. It's nothing. Yeah. Means something to you, don't get me wrong, as a fan, if you get in it and stuff. But in terms of the money, what the Champions League in 20 years wouldn't be worth the value of money as what it is now with those clubs in it. Unfortunately, it's the reality. And the clubs have made a power grab. They've realised that. They've gone, we're worth this amount. We're worth as an entity more than the whole of European football combined. It's a power grab, and they've sold out. They've sold out against everybody. The pyramid of football. How often do we speak about the pyramid of football and its importance? And that's what is important, Suj. That West Ham can have a chance of qualifying for the Champions League. That Norwich could come up from the Championship this year and qualify for Europe next year. And admittedly, if these big six clubs walk out the Premier League, those chances will increase massively. It's not right, is it? If you did get in the Champions League next year, who do you want to play? And let's not lie about it. You'd be thinking, I want to play Barca, I want to play Real Madrid, I want to play
Of course.
And that's the reality.
Yeah, but wind it back a second. This dream is propaganda. I said this. It's not
propaganda because go back 20 years ago, mate. The idea of me being in the San Siro or the Bernabeu and stuff like that was a pipe dream. It was never happening. Never happening.
No, but the rise of Spurs to get into the Champions League is not the rise of the majority of football clubs getting up and into Europe. I just don't think it is. I think if you look at it and break it down in actual real-term numbers, the chances and times that it happens is rare. And the chances and times we get told about it,
it's rare, but it's possible. It's possible. One of the proud things,
like 1,000 to 1 bet that I put on at £1 is possible because it's got odds of 1,000 to 1.
One of the massive
prides before one comes in.
A lot of Tottenham fans will disagree with this comment, but I'm massively proud that we nearly won. And I realised, nearly won. I get it. We nearly won the Champions League and the Premier League without spending the money that the Chelseas and the Man Cities also did to get to this level. Newcastle United fans want their takeover. If Newcastle United fans get their takeover, you can put them in this league tomorrow because they'll be signing up and they'll be joining in. You have to have the dream, Suj. The Leicester, bollocks, mate. Leicester won the Premier League fairly, mate. They beat everybody. They deserve to win it. They deserve then to have the Champions League nights the next year and get to the quarterfinal champions. Cannot deny them that right, mate.
I'm not denying them that right, though.
I know
don't
you're
see how
not.
I am denying the right.
You're not.
These clubs leaving, I almost feel like we'll forget about them. They'll be different. They'll just be different clubs. In the same way that Barcelona, Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, Sevilla, and Villarreal are all great football teams. They just play in a different league. You guys will be the same. Great football clubs just play in a different league. I can't win their league because I'm not in it. I can just win our league. Would I rather win the Premier League with all of you in it? Of course. If you're not, you're not. But don't just go.
No. Don't misunderstand. I'm not taking it away from you. If these 6 go and you win the Premier League next year, I'm not marking it down as going, oh, you only won it because the big 6 weren't there. I'm not saying that at all. That's what it then becomes, right? But the point is, if you finish 4th next year, what do you do?
All right,
are you going to be in a Champions League? Because I don't believe this is the wider question. Do we believe there'll be a Champions League and a Super League?
No, that's a good question. No, I think they'll adjust the European competitions slightly. They'll have to do something to adjust them slightly. They'll probably still call it a Champions League, but it will need some thought onto what happens. Let me ask you a question right here. The fundamental problem, because they solved the problem of big clubs who have got a bad recent track record getting into the competition with this coefficient and how they're going to manipulate which 32 clubs.
Well, no, it didn't, because as we discussed 2 weeks ago,
yeah. But
AC
Liverpool,
Milan, it still would have fucked AC Milan under that rule.
Yeah, short term, but eventually I think they would have righted themselves. If UEFA, in the next 2 to 3 weeks, sit down with these 12 clubs and change the distribution model of monies from the Champions League to be weighted in their favour to get as close as they can to the way that the financial structure is of the European Super League, how would you feel about it?
Wrongly, but I definitely prefer it to this. To at least give you
It's
clubs,
just saying,
at least give you clubs a chance to get in. But at least under that basis, my team still has to earn the right to be in there. Even under that coefficient bollocks we said a couple of weeks ago. But it becomes
harder and harder and harder.
No, I get that. But then this year, there's every chance that Leicester and West Ham are going to finish in the top 4 this year.
Mm.
Right, and then what? And then what? 4 of these 6 clubs wouldn't be in next season's Champions League. That's what this is about as well. It's fear. It's fear that actually the Leicesters, the West Hams, and the Evertons are getting better.
We are, yeah. There's no doubt about that. I don't like the similarities with American sports too much because there's a lot of differences in like the draft system, for example. Yeah, why not create if you're going to have a closed shop, a draft system where the worst team gets to pick the best player and that kind of thing.
Oh, that's to come in 10 years, by the way.
Helps level things out.
Just buying people on draft.
Mm.
What's to say that won't be the next step? I mean, let's be honest. This is power grabbed mainly by, we're told, obviously Perez at Real Madrid and Agnelli at Juventus, and
Joel Glazer's the vice chairman.
3 American-owned clubs: United, Liverpool, and Arsenal. And the rumor is today that there's no word from Tottenham's stance on this at all that I've read so far, was that Chelsea and Manchester City didn't really want to join in with this competition, but felt they had to. And I can see that. Exactly what we said about in terms of if West Ham got in a position, they go, fuck me, yeah, I'm taking that.
100%.
And I think that's the case. I think Tottenham have looked at it and gone, fuck me, if Arsenal are going in, we've got to. Have to.
Yeah. And that's why I'm not mad about it. And I do feel like if we were offered a place,
by the way, I'm not trying to defend Daniel Levy in any way at all, by the way, because I went in the space of 48 hours from Mourinho out to Levy out, like, get them out of my club. The problem is as well, and here's the next big problem. You try and force these owners out of the football club and a new owner comes in. What's the new owner want? I want a piece of the Super League. I want the money from that. We spoke about if someone did want to buy Tottenham for £2.3 billion, what's the worth in the investment? Well, the money's there now. I ain't going to fucking buy the football club and pull them out of the Super League. It's not going to be no different.
The difficulty now is for the Premier League, the FA, the local football associations in countries, UEFA and FIFA, to wrestle back control of the situation now is going to be so difficult. From the 12 that are leaving, and call it 15, because I'm sure PSG, Bayern Munich and other, maybe Dortmund, whoever they decide, will, maybe even Ajax, who knows, maybe West Ham, will become 15 founder clubs. They're gone, right? I think for UEFA, FIFA, and so on to wrestle back power from the rest is done now. I don't think they've gone so far down the road, it's not going to happen. So what do they do now to grow a pair to stop it happening a second time? Because after the Premier League was created, seasons later, the rebranded Championship was created where they had a certain amount. It's different, but it's the same in the sense that, you know what, eventually the likes of West Ham, maybe Everton, so on and so on, who can fill 50, 60,000 in a stadium. And there are other clubs in Europe who might be able to as well, could create our own league as well and realize, hang on a second, that's actually worth more money than the Premier League if the disparity is so big. Even if it's double, so what? So they have to grow a pair now and realize that the reason this has happened is because they lost control. Let those guys go, but do something to get control back of the next tier, because otherwise it will happen again as a second wave.
Do you think the Super League is going to happen?
Scarily, yes. Yes, I do. For the clubs to go this far down the road with zero consultation, to already have some financial forecasts and numbers laid out, they're far down the road. And the consequence, they would have known prior to the statement coming out yesterday that UEFA and the local football associations, national football associations, will kick them out of competitions, try and putting sanctions around players. Everyone will be up in arms. They will have known this. They're not naive to think the world's going to accept this with open arms, but they still did it anyway. And that's why I think, yes, this will still happen. Allied to that, the numbers are astronomical. Astronomical.
How much money do you want, though?
Exactly.
The fuck? These clubs not rich enough already. What the fuck? It's just greed. It's not even. I get it. Like, it's saying Tottenham situation. I know what you're saying. All right, it'll pay off the stadium and stuff. But it's all going to be all right. It doesn't fucking matter. I'd rather you never built the fucking thing.
Players' wages make up 65 to 80% of a club's outgoings quite often anyway. Or percentage of their income goes, 65 to 80% goes on player wages from their income. Their income quadruples. Does that mean player salaries quadruple? At what point are we going to get £1 million a week player? I mean, American sports salaries are way in excess of UK sports salary. I mean, football salaries in NFL and NBA and stuff. They do earn a lot more, and this will allow football players to follow suit in terms of the amount of money they can make.
If the Super League happens, do you think the Big Six will still participate in the Premier League?
Yeah.
Why?
Too important to the Premier League and the FA. We talked about this. You said what will the knock-on effect be for the other clubs? It's going to be horrible. You're going to be allowed to stay in because the Premier League becomes such an unattractive product without you guys. And the FA, so Premier League obviously are just interested in their own product, and the FA are toothless. So I do think they'll be allowed to stay in the domestic competition. There'll be some posturing, and there'll be some solidarity payments and so on that'll be talked about, and you guys will have to give 20% of your money or some shit like that, and they'll be spun as a solution to the problem.
Is there, and you'll know more about this than myself, is there any case to be able to remove these chairmen or owners from their football clubs as a risk to the local community?
Nah, not at the big scale. No, because as long as the clubs are still doing the community work, which they will. I mean, Tottenham will still have a focus in the community, and the players will still do stuff like that, I'm sure. I don't think there is that. No, because they're not a risk, really. They're doing what's in the best interest of the club.
I do not want to play, and this is the other thing no one seems to be mentioning it, I do not want to play Chelsea 4 times a season or Manchester United 4 times a season. I would rather play West Ham United twice than Barcelona twice. That's the principle of what this is about. Is I beat West Ham twice a season gives me a better chance of being able to play Barcelona. You beat me twice a season, you get a better chance of being able to play Barcelona. Imagine a world where I tell you that Tottenham and West Ham never play each other again. That's fucking bollocks, mate.
It's disappointing.
That's fucking bollocks. Nothing could sum it up much better than that. Everton never play Liverpool again. The fuck, mate. Yeah, seriously. Ridiculous. No. I don't know the answers. I generally think the scariest thing is that I think if the Big Six were told they were removed from the Premier League, I think their opinion of it would be that it would solve the problem.
Yeah. This is why your first question you asked me as we're wrapping up here was, do I think it will happen? They've been through every permutation, combination of what could happen in terms of consequence, and yet they still did it. So I think they're fine with rolling on and carrying on. I'll come back to what I said at the start. Like, as a West Ham fan, I'm like, it doesn't affect me massively. I get that the quality of the Premier League decreases. So yes, that's not great.
I think you sum it up well. And to be honest, I think no true football fan can be happy about this. I'm honestly, my opinion is that the people that are most upset right now are the supporters of these 6 teams.
Yeah. I see that. I mean, I see that, and so you should be. Your clubs let you down, no doubt about
Massively.
it. They've taken a deal that was irresistible. I see that, but they've let you guys down.
Do you remember what I said on the first podcast after Mourinho was appointed?
Sold our soul
to the devil. So what if that was that? What the fuck is this?
Soldier soul. Yeah, this is a perfect way to describe what has happened here. And it's a mess. But I think fighting it is not the answer. I mean, just fighting it and saying no is. I think we need the realization of the imbalance of power in the game, and we need to take steps to address that now, as well as obviously fighting it. So what I mean is just deading this like we deaded Project Big Picture, and then carrying on as we are is only kicking the can down the road.
But how do we dead this? There isn't. I don't see how. There's a way to dead this.
No.
It's
too far
only
down the road.
It would. The only thing I could think. I'm trying to think how you go about trying to stop this, because clearly they were so fucking brazen. The 6 clubs, and by the way, this has been damned in the Italian press, the Spanish press, and all that everywhere, as well.
Everywhere.
Gazzetta dello Sport and that, they're all over it. Like, no, fuck this shit. The only thing that I could think that could possibly change this is the players. The players all just came out and went, like, literally every footballer just came out and went, you want to fucking organise your competition? We ain't playing in it.
Do you think the players care?
No.
Okay, so it's not going to happen.
I think no, that's not fair. I think some do. It's like
20 to 30%. I think
there will be some Tottenham fans listening to this who are like, "Oh my god, we're going to play Real Madrid twice a year." Fuck off. Like, some will feel like that, and I think there's some
fans.
Fans and players. Listen, there are some fans that for this. Let's not pretend that that's not real. There are even some Tottenham fans out there who are excited about the prospect of Tottenham becoming a superpower and becoming the biggest club. Fuck off, all this shit. And there are plenty of players. There are already some that have come out and said certain things. Daniel Podence put something on Instagram earlier, which I think even Bruno Fernandes and a few of his Portuguese, João Cancelo, a few of his Portuguese teammates are back. That's what we need. The fans are powerless. That's the biggest problem. And this is, when you say it's already gone too far wrong, you're right. You're right in the sense that the power from fans, and all we want is to have a fair price and to be able to go and watch our team. So that's all we give a fuck about, right? That's all we want. That's long been gone. And they know they've got us. It's like people saying, well, you won't go anymore, will you, Jane? I can't promise you I won't. Because they've got me. It's like I'm a fucking servant to them. I can't help it. It's my football team. How do I suddenly switch off? It was, you're going to support now. I ain't going to go and support no one else. I don't go no more. Football's just basically dead to me, mate. So I don't see how the fans have got any power. I've been reading for months about the Football Supporters Association and other commodities around Europe, etc., all clubbing together. It's all nicey-nicey. It hasn't achieved anything, has it? What have these fan rep groups done? And the principal idea is they've all tried to do the right thing in terms of getting fair football for everyone. And that's what every supporters trust wants of Tottenham, Man City, whomever club. All they want is football to be fair and open. And like anybody, at the end of the day, anybody has a chance of winning it. And we know that means Southend United are never probably going to win the Premier League. But in theory, one day they possibly could. And that's the fucking dream, isn't it? I can only see this not happening potentially if players say, right, that's it.
But you said you don't think it will happen, and I said I don't think it will happen because
I just it's gonna be too much money at the end of the day.
Harry Kane going from 200 grand a week at Spurs to 250 grand a week at Man United. It's a bump, but it's not like the life-changing bump or whatever.
You'd get a fucking £1 million a week at Tottenham.
Yeah, this will be 200,000 to 600,000. Players' careers are short. The bumps in salaries are so big that I think we just got to deal with it here.
Yesterday,
I've just seen a post on the old Twitter. Super League owners are looking to secure deals with broadcasters like Amazon, Facebook, Disney, and Comcast. It will raise the revenues up to 4 billion, double what the Champions League is getting right now, 2 billion. That's just the TV receipts, mate. Doubling the TV receipts for what is possibly the most expensive prize in football anyway. So what do the likes of Sky and BT now do? What happens to Sky and BT?
Well,
now Amazon and these guys are coming in. Because trust me, Amazon and Facebook are richer than Sky and BT.
Oh yeah, I think the name was mentioned like yesterday was DAZN, is it? The channel that they would potentially, yeah.
Okay, I've not seen that.
They French or Italian, maybe. Oh, it might be American. Forgive me, I'm not too familiar with them. But I think that they were offering up 3.5 billion or something. Was already in talks about something TV rights or something. Listen, let's remember, and I do think it was largely driven by the Premier League clubs rather than Sky and BT, that we were all having to pay £14.99 a couple of months ago for fucking West Brom versus Burnley and stuff.
Yeah.
So let's not have sympathy for any of them.
No, I'm not sympathetic, but it does leave them in a very difficult situation. They are powerless in this negotiation as well.
They've got nothing. And to be honest, they probably would look at it, the amount they'll lose in terms of subscriptions if the big six walk away from the Premier League. They'll be suing the Premier. If the big six clubs went, they'd be suing the Premier League for the TV rights that they paid, mate. Because they won't be getting the product.
They have to renegotiate the contract for whatever's left.
And as I said, it's not going to be the same value, is it?
No.
It's a black hole that I'm afraid is no good for anybody. If anybody is celebrating this, I don't understand. And I understand the sentiment from your perspective, Suj. Fuck off and take your ball and play your game, man. I totally understand that, because it's kind of my opinion as well. Like, yeah, piss off, do your thing. But there's no good in this. All this, money's going to bullshit. This money ain't going to filter down to no one. We know from Project Big Six picture, the talks in there, that they wanted to be able to look back on that in hindsight now. How they wanted to vote. The vote, so that the 14 clubs couldn't vote against them on anything. It was part in prep for this. You were going to be a part of that.
Yeah. They talked about 10 billion getting filtered down as that's one thing I would never make a decision based on what they promise in the future.
What they're going to do? Build a football pitch where the Champions League final is or something. Look, we're doing stop it. We won't even be the Champions League, will it? Be the franchise final. The Champions League final will be Bayern Munich and PSG forever. Until obviously they decide to join this as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, I really wish I could end this pod by saying, don't worry, I don't think it will happen. But we said it. Unfortunately,
no.
Cat's out the bag.
I'm afraid for me, that announcement last night was football's lowest point in its history.
No.
And I think there might be worse to come.
I would tell the listeners, James, to jump on Twitter and let us know what they think. But to be honest, it's been pretty full of it. Or we know exactly what the opinions of the people are. All we can do is keep fighting and keep an eye on it. I think don't panic though. Don't let it stress you out too much.
I'm panicking and I'm stressed out.
I'm
not going to pretend. You know me. I'm calm about everything. I am panicking and I'm stressed out.
No control. You've got no control over that situation. It's just not worth it. Many bigger things going on right now, and what's the worst case scenario? I'll just support Barnet.
It doesn't feel like it, mate.
Let's just go back to Barnet, Super Barnet.
There is no going anywhere else for me, mate. It doesn't exist.
Enfield Town.
Fuck them. I don't mean that.
Oh dear. Well, look, listeners, do jump on Twitter in the comments on this pod. Let us know your thoughts, whether you agree, disagree. Of course, playing a bit of devil's advocate, but with a West Ham hat, but definitely not with a football fan's hat. And we'll see how this story unfolds in the coming weeks. Let's tell everybody what they've got to look forward to the rest of the week, James.
It's interesting when the news was kind of breaking, everyone was like, change the people's poll. And it wasn't a slight on what's coming on tomorrow's people's poll. I think everyone was like, you don't need to do a vote, not realising the vote had already gone out. And it's kind of this, right? We give everyone the chance to have their say. And one of the big stories over the weekend was Norwich's promotion back to the Premier League. So Mark, FPL Badger, will be joining me on tomorrow's podcast to discuss their promotion, because I'm going to try and work on the basis that football goes on as normal at the moment. So that's tomorrow for you. Sky Fantasy Football.
Let me give out a plug. I mean, Mark is amongst the correspondents, one of the most knowledgeable guys about the game in general.
And he goes everywhere. He goes and watches England and stuff as well. So we'll talk about it.
He is up there as possibly one of the most. I don't want to sound disparaging with the other correspondents, but in terms of football knowledge and the amount of football that guy watches is a lot. So
that was disparaging.
Whenever I have a conversation, he's always comes across as coming from his experience of seeing and watching and what have you, as opposed to hearsay and reading match reports. So definitely worth catching up with Mark.
Talking of correspondence, Jose Mourinho, happy birthday. Congratulations on turning 40.
Indeed.
Life begins at it, apparently. I've got that to come very shortly.
I've done 6 months or so of being 40. Trust me, Jen, it's been all right.
Yeah. I think you're bullshitting, mate.
Damn it, my team have won more games than we lost since 40.
Wednesday's Sky Fantasy Football. Thursday's Clash of the Correspondents is going to be hopefully Andy Martin and Gary Robinson, FPL tactician, and Is My Cat Playing, talking about Leeds and Manchester United. Wow, the timing for that. I can't promise you that the guys are going to turn up, because I completely accept that nobody might want to do the gig at the moment. I don't know. I haven't spoken to him. Friday, we're going to do a podcast, probably the latest on this, and talking about the 5 midweek games happening in the Premier League between tonight's Leeds versus Greeds match and the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games. Patreon this week is going to be full of this shit. Q&A today. I bet there's some questions on it. So tomorrow's Tottenham. More about Mourinho, more about Greed. Wednesday, we're going to pod on this again in terms of whatever's the latest. Thursday, Ask James stream is going to be exclusive for patrons. You can ask me more about this shit. Friday will be our differential show. Game week 33 preview, if game week 33 is still happening. I've got a cup final to go to Sunday, so the fuck.
Nice.
I'm still going to be protesting just about something different now.
Yeah. There we go. A good rundown of what we've got for the rest of the week. If you are interested in joining our Slack community, there's close to 380 managers in there, FPL managers and football fans. Then do head over to patreon.com/planetfpl. Depending on what tier, you get additional podcasts, you get prize leagues, and so on and so on. It's a lot of fun, and it might be just what you need right now to vent and
or not
and get involved in bants with some good football lads. Other than that, though, of course, each and every day our podcasts are free. So wherever you're listening to them, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and so on and so on. Thank you to all of you. I mean, James, I know you posted the other day we passed 2 million downloads.
Yeah, on Saturday, yeah.
That doesn't count.
It's crazy.
Spotify and YouTube, etc. as well.
Or the Patreon pods doesn't count that.
So we're probably 2.5 million and the rest. But thank you all for your support and helping us get to that milestone as well. You promised them 2 hours, James. I think they'll be happy with 1 hour 52. Stay safe wherever you are. Ciao for now.
Thanks, everyone. Remember to be nice to each other, please. Cue music, man, child.